This whole Poland story is just an accident. Sometimes Poland chooses you. I had a fun life here in Warsaw. Documents are important. Now that's not a formality. So I came here not knowing Polish well enough. I was very scared. I was like, oh my god, I will never have a job. I will never get in another apartment. Please do not do this at home. I can't bring my boyfriend to my dorm in Wrocław.
Hi, I'm Vaibhav.
And I'm Alexis.
And this is Why Poland by Expats in Warsaw.
And today's guest is a very special guest coming from Russia. Her name is Anna Martynova.
Enjoy the conversation.
Okay, so welcome back to the Why Poland podcast. On this episode, we have with us Anna Martynova. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so on this podcast, we talk all about what it's like to move to Poland, to live here, to work here. Anna, where are you from?
I'm from Priozersk, Russia. That is a small town north to St. Petersburg.
Okay, and when did you move to Poland?
I moved to Poland in 2014. I moved here for university. I studied here.
You had moved here for the first time, or had you already been?
If I'm allowed to tell a long story.
You're allowed to tell a long story, yes.
No time constraint.
God, if that's unnecessary. So it all started when I was 16, and my high school art history teacher decided that it would be fun to put me in this competition, and he said like, oh, just go participate, and you might win this trip to Poland, and you will just chill in Wrocław for 2 weeks. And I was like, that's rad. I mean, so I did, and I went to Wrocław, and we were learning their Polish for 2 weeks, and also did like some activities, and it was great and fun. But also I learned that there's this scholarship program in Wrocław called Teraz Wrocław, and I decided like, oh, okay, that's cool. I will just go and study here, and so I did. And then 2 years later, I moved there.
What did you study? Sorry.
I studied art history in the University of Wrocław. Yes, I did. I did there my bachelor's and my master's.
All right. And when the transition to Warsaw? When that happened?
Oh, that's another beautiful long story. Well, I did 2 Erasmus exchanges, both during my bachelor's program and my master's program, and then I went to Amsterdam for my 3rd semester. It was my last year of studies, and then I had only 1 semester left, and I had a boyfriend, and then I decided that I can't bring my boyfriend to my dorm in Wrocław, and my best friend was like, oh, I have this apartment in Warsaw, and there is this free space. Do you want to move and like help me with the rent? And you're almost done with studies anyways. It will be more fun. And I was like, yeah, can I bring my boyfriend with me? And she was like, fine. The more the merrier.
Did he contribute to the rent?
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yes, in the beginning, yes. Then he left because then the COVID started. Like I wasn't gonna stay here, but then COVID happened. Life happened, and then I finished studies, and the boyfriend left, and I was just keeping my life here. In Warsaw.
You got stuck in Warsaw.
And I got stuck. Yeah, by accident. Like this whole Poland story is just an accident. So I don't think that I have an appropriate answer to your core question. Why Poland? It happened.
Sometimes Poland happens. Okay,
yes. I don't know. You don't choose a lot of things. Sometimes
Poland chooses you.
Poland chooses you.
Interestingly, this used to be my answer when people used to ask me 10 years ago when I first moved here. And a lot of people back then used to ask this question to anyone who did not look like Polish person. Yeah. So they would ask me why Poland, and I would say, well, I didn't choose Poland. Poland chose me because, I was in India, not in a tier 1 city, never planned to leave India really. But then the opportunity sometimes presents itself to you, and then you decide to take on that opportunity, and then one thing leads to another, and you are here, right?
Yes, and you've had a life, and then you have everything that you like. in life in this place. So it's not really about the place, you know. So I came here to be philosophical on this podcast. I'm not going to be and giving tips and advice. I'm just going to be like, you know, what happens to you.
So let's ask a different question. So you came because of studies and boyfriend. Why you stayed?
I stayed because I had a fun life here in Warsaw, you know, like I had friends and you know, and I was happy, and that's how I was never also planning on living in Warsaw. It just happened, and then it was nice enough, and I was like, why would I change it?
And we've talked to a few people on this podcast so far, and one of the things that gets brought up a lot is that a lot of people, especially like you, COVID came around, people got stuck, and some people got stuck in Poland, some people ended up in Poland, and they struggle with loneliness, right? Like finding a community, making friends. Was that a struggle for you when you moved here and to study, or was that just like because you came for studying, it was like integrated? How did that?
Yeah, I think that for me, my greatest struggle was my greatest struggle was the language barrier at the beginning, because I came here not knowing Polish well enough. Like, I mean, I barely spoke. I was 18, I was stupid, and I decided that it will just sort itself out, and it didn't. And I was struggling because I have to study in this language that I don't know, and people, and I have to, you know, make connections. I found
interesting. So you decided to jump right into it, and you start to learn in Polish rather than, you know, in English or some other language that you were comfortable with.
Reckless.
Wow.
Reckless. Wait, so what was that like?
I do not recommend. Please do not do this at home. Like, that's not a fun experience.
Okay, so hold on. Let me get this straight. So you came to Poland for studies. You didn't speak Polish well enough, but your studies were in the Polish language.
Yes,
so you were both
exactly.
learning a subject and learning the language of that you were learning that subject in at the same time. Okay, and so did that, wow.
Yeah,
that's
double-edged
aggressive.
sword.
Yeah, that's aggressive. I feel like that's a special commitment. And so that was your biggest challenge, but that didn't stop you from making friends.
Oh, no, it didn't stop me, because also I wanted to integrate. There's the thing about also about Russians, I think specifically, because we're famous for not making you know, communities like diasporas, and like everybody's trying to like to forget all of the past and then integrate and not.
Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yes,
but that's a good stereotype.
It is a thing. It's changing now, especially when a lot of people also moved, and like they need a support system. But when people were willing for leaving willingly, let's say, like more out of their own volition, they went with this focus to integrate into the new place, and you know, and it used to be like that, so people didn't want to hold on to their like communities, like Russian speaking. So I also came, and a lot of my Russian friends here who I met also, when they came, they tried to integrate. Like, you learn the language, you try to make local friends and everything. And I also but for me it was easy because it was university, and you know, regardless of my language skills, like we had things in common with people. Yeah. Right. Like we were bonding over bitching over. Can you say bitch? I'm sorry. Bitching about exams and classes and everything. Like we were able to bond, and also I was very lucky to meet people who were willing to talk to me, despite the fact that my Polish was not good. I mean, they're great people, and I don't know why they did it, but it was very nice of them to keep hanging out with me and talking to me, so I learned the language eventually.
So you would say that to make friends in Poland, or you know, any country when you move in there, learning the language to integrate is really imperative, important?
Depending on whether you want to make friends with locals or internationals. At this point of time, I don't think that you have to necessarily make the connections with locals. I mean, if you want to, that's great. But you know, you can be very happy with your expat bubble, and I think that there's nothing wrong with this. Right.
But I think, counter to that is the locals also speak really good English nowadays, right? So,
Yes.
and they want to integrate with the,
If they
expat
want, that's
network as well.
okay. But again, now I'm working here, and I don't think that I have a lot of things in common with my coworkers, because they were born around here. They never moved out. We don't share the same experiences. So I do think that it's easier for me to bond with guys like you, rather than with Polish people. Like, we just don't have the same background, and we just don't share the same experiences. We don't have much in common. And in university, I had a lot of things in common with the people, because we were placed in that situation and we were young.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw, there was on a different podcast, I don't know, Diary of a CEO, and it was talking about why it's harder to make friends as you grow older. And there were 3 things that is required in friendships, and one of them is proximity. The other one is time spent together. And so why aren't you and your coworkers best friend? And that's the third thing, which is life stage. So usually your coworkers are in so many different life stages that you don't have that common ground that you would, in a school setting. What about when you moved to Warsaw then? Because at that point, you were studying in Wrocław. You were almost finished, I guess, thesis writing or something like that.
Yeah.
So you weren't really in a school setting when you moved to Warsaw.
No, but here is a different thing, because I was finishing my thesis, and when you guys met me, I was working in a bar, and that was a fun and easy to make friends setting.
Okay, yeah, tell us about that. Yeah, I do want to know about that though. Being a bartender, I don't know if you've been a bartender anywhere else, but specifically in Warsaw, what's the vibe like? The nightlife in Warsaw? Is it good? What are some were there any cultural differences that you encountered?
And what are the prerequisites to become a bartender?
Yeah.
Well, I only worked in a bar here. I worked in 2 places, and so I can't really compare from the professional perspective the Warsaw life. But I think I've lived in different places, and I think that lately I spent a year in Belgium, and it is very, the bar culture is very different.
I want to talk more about culture, because some of the things that have come up with other conversations that we've had with people is what have been the differences between where you come from versus when you're in Poland. And so we had a guest who actually also brought up the pub scene and how that was very different in Poland versus where he comes from.
Yes.
And he had gripes about lines versus so was there anything culturally that you maybe had to get used to when you moved here, or
I think that culture is pretty close. So, and I've been living here most of my adult life. I moved here when I was 18, right? So for me, everything is very natural at this point,
right? Yeah,
I wasn't born it, but because the culture is quite close. Yeah, we can say that culturally Poland is closer to me than to you guys, for example. So for me, this transition was smoother, and I think it would have been harder for me to start my life abroad in a different place, further away culturally.
But then you kind of did when you moved to Belgium.
Yes, I can pinpoint more differences between Belgium and Poland than Russia and Poland, but also because I've been living here for so long.
So because you've lived in Warsaw and Wrocław in Poland and then in Belgium, how would you compare those 2 countries differently? And what were the, let's say, top 3, top 5 differences that you saw between those 2 countries and the culture that you experienced?
It's just the way our life is organized is just a bit different here. I don't think that I integrated there well enough. To be able to compare like that. But I think that a lot of things work differently. The annoying thing with the restaurants being closed, and with food culture, and eating sandwiches all the time, and that was kind of shocking. So all of the small things, I don't have a bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of time it is the small things. It's always the funniest little things usually when you move somewhere else.
But those small things tend to become really big. If you sort of look at the from a bird's eye view, those things really impact your life quite a bit, and then that's what make you homesick as well when you start to miss that place because of those smaller things.
Yeah, like the time when the shops are open or closed, and like it's on a Sunday, it's annoying here, but it was the same in Belgium, but in Belgium
You're missing your żabkas.
and I was missing my żabkas, and I realized because also in Russia shops, for example, are open longer later, and it was normal for me, for example, to be able to do my groceries after midnight because a lot of like shops were
really
open. Yeah.
Same as in India, though.
Really, after midnight?
Yes.
No, in India nowadays, the digital culture, those digital warehouses have become so massive. You order anything.
Like on
correct. Like,
okay, yeah.
So there are smaller companies, new startups that are coming in now. You order whatever you want. You want iPhone 16 Pro Max, like at 2 a.m. Yeah, you get it in 10 minutes.
Seriously?
Yeah. You should just have money.
Yes.
That's what we recommend.
But that is true for every place. Yeah,
Exactly.
It's not fun to be poor anywhere.
Yeah.
Some places are less fun than others, though, I will say.
Also, yes, that is true. But coming back to the shops, and I think that like some chains, like let's say like something of a Carrefour, it would be open until 1.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, because
in Russia and here it would be like 10-ish, and in Belgium that would be 8
ooh, that's not
or
enough
7.
time
That's not
after work.
fun.
No, yeah.
And you have to always like keep it in mind and like be and it makes this is like silly small things that make an impact on your lifestyle.
Of course.
Because this is the thing now you have to worry about. And here in Poland, for example, you have to like remember the Catholic holidays that catch you by surprise every time. And you're like, oh, when I was a student it was worse. Like now that I work, I know when I have a day off. But when I was a student, like suddenly you're out of everything in the kitchen, and then you realize, oh, there is another holiday. It's something church related, and you're like, and it happens every year, and you're like doing this every year. It always happens when you're out of bread.
Sorry, I'm mentally stuck on the bread, but okay. So you actually have been through like a couple of large events in Poland. The first one being the pandemic.
Yes.
But then you were also here during the invasion of Ukraine. What was that like for you in terms of like, what was your experience being in Poland during that time? Did you experience any differences in like the way people interacted with you, or what was going on?
Oh, I think that I was more scared of the impacts, imaginary impacts in my head. Like it didn't happen. It wasn't that bad at all. I was very scared. I was like, oh my god, I will never have a job again. Like I will never get in another apartment, or like that they will people will start treating me.
The negative stigma attached to being a Russian.
Like I was scared that it will have like a real impact, that I will be deprived of like some things, and I will not be able to do some things. Like I was so scared that I won't that no one will rent me an apartment anymore. But nothing of the sort happened, and it was actually like really okay, because again, people who knew me, like they know me. Right. Nothing's gonna change. Like literally nothing has changed. But people also who don't know you. It's different when you see a real human person who looks like a human being and talks like a human being. Like it's hard to really be very confrontational to a stranger that looks like a human being, like and behaves like a human being. So everybody was just like civil. I didn't have any like the only effect that I personally had in like interpersonal interaction was like the awkwardness, like the awkward pause happens. So, like when there's, oh, where are you from? And you say, and they're like, and they don't know what to say, and there's this awkward pause.
Right.
No, because sometimes what we do is we try to see the state and the people from the state in the same light, right? But usually people have nothing to do with the actions of the state, right? And it's usually should not be impacted. My question is, then when you were in the same room with Ukrainians, were there, again, speaking of the awkward moments, did it lead to some confrontation at any time?
No, I personally, I know that it's different, and like some people were getting bad treatment, but for me personally, that never happened. There was awkward pauses, and what are you gonna do? And everyone is just like nice on the interpersonal level.
I think as soon as you step out of the digital world and you get in the real world where you speak to real people about the real issues, I think people usually are understanding.
They have a lot more in common actually than they have differences.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's very easy to shout on the internet, and then it's very hard when you're facing someone who didn't do anything to you.
Absolutely.
Correct. So then tell us about, because everybody has a very different experience. So we've had someone on the show who was a musician from the UK who had a very specific, unique experience being a foreigner in Poland. He was also one that kind of Poland chose him. What was your experience, if any, at being someone who was foreign? Maybe not necessarily Russian, but like, what do you think that's like for people? Is it easy to integrate? Is it difficult to integrate? I know you were very focused on integrating.
I think that, again, if for me it was easy because at some point I was able to learn Polish, and like it was enough for me for all of the interactions that I needed to have, and I didn't want to have like extra, like I wasn't trying to make specifically Polish friends. If I made it, was also people who are somehow involved with like international community here.
Yeah.
You know how.
Right. So you, as someone who have learned Polish, used Polish to study, make friends, integrate,
Get a job.
got a job, and who does not use it now anymore on a day-to-day basis, right?
Oh no, I have a Polish boyfriend, and
Oh, you do.
and we live together, and I do.
Because my question was going to be, or is now, that if someone who have never invested that time to learn the language, is it really required? Especially if you're living in Warsaw or the bigger cities?
Well, depending on which level you want to, what is your base level? Like, of course, you need something. Like, you need to be able to, I don't know, find yourself in the city. And yes, you need some basic level, but I don't think that you need to be super advanced in Polish to be able to live in Warsaw, for example. It helps. Again, I don't know. I can't imagine, because I know Polish, and it's hard for me to imagine what's it like.
To not know. Yeah, for me too. Like, I think you need to know something, especially if you want to live here for a long time. Like, you can't just like not know Polish the whole time. I mean, maybe it's possible, but even you, like,
it is possible.
No, but you know some Polish.
But it is possible pretty much everywhere. Again, if you have, I don't know, if you have money, and for example, and you will be, because we all need to deal, with getting a residence permit, which is which is really annoying and so crushing process here in Poland. And for that, you need to be able either speak Polish to be able to get all the documents, or pay someone to help you do this.
So tell us about the experiences that you have gone through, the soul-crushing experiences, so to speak. How has it been for you? And how can people sort of get either acclimatized with this process and get better and more efficient in getting these things done? If you have anything to share as an experience of your own.
I think that my own experience is very similar to everybody, because we all have to wait for years to get the residency done, and the longest I waited was a year and a half in Wrocław, and now I'm also in the middle of this process, and I applied in like six months ago or 7 months ago, and I will and I am hoping to get it in the next 5 months.
That would be great.
That would be great.
If anyone from the immigration office is watching, it would be nice if you can expedite the process.
We have a request. Wait, question. So this is really interesting, because both of us got residence permits on the basis of work. But I think your situation is kind of different. Are you allowed to work in Poland after having gotten a degree?
Yes.
Okay. And was it easier to get your residence?
That's also why Poland. Because I'm allowed to work here legally without any additional papers.
Meaning the work permit. You don't need a work permit.
I don't need a work permit.
Okay. So you can just find a job even if you don't have a work permit, and then on that basis get the residence
permit. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And was it faster for you to get the residence permit when you were a student versus when you're...
Well, it was a long time ago, and things have changed, and more people came, and it got like crazy. When I was applying for the first time, and 2015, and I waited 4 months, and it used to be, and I thought that it was like, oh, 4 months is so long, and now I remember it fondly, those happy times when it required only 4 months of waiting. But then, you know, more people came, and they were struggling at Urząd. So I do understand the struggle of the Urząd people, because also I know a friend of mine is running this agency that is helping foreigners to get their documents done, and so like I know kind of from the inside how it looks, and I know how you know, every inspector at Urząd have like thousands of cases.
Yeah.
So I understand how
I think
it's
they're
impossible.
very, like, they're understaffed and like overworked for sure.
Yes, that is true.
So, but again, you know, it's interesting how you thought 4 months was super long, and now you think like probably 1 year is still, you know, a quicker time. Like what the change in vantage point can do to your thinking and your memories, and
it's all about perspective. Yeah, I think the longest it ever took me was like 2.5 years or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, 2019, and then I didn't get it until 2021.
But you got rejected and then you appealed.
Yeah, but I didn't get my rejection until 1.5 years later, and then I had to appeal.
And also that's the benefit of having a US passport. You know, you can move in and out, and you know.
Actually, I couldn't though, because it was COVID. I got locked out, like because there were
everybody got locked out.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes
so having a US passport didn't
help. We were all locked in for a while.
Yeah, good to be on an equal status.
There you go.
From the passport status point of view.
But again, you said if there was a difference between like getting a residency for studying and for working, and I don't feel the difference. Again, it's a perspective difference, because it got the process has gotten like more complicated. But I think that yes, when you're studying, you kind of need less papers.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you are able to do it by yourself. Like for example, I was applying before in the before times. I mean, before COVID and everything. Before everything has gotten more complicated. I was applying by myself, and I was able to like get all the papers. And like the inspectors were like nice enough to tell you in time that you're missing something that you need to get. Now, for example, like if you didn't get the document, you will get rejected. Like no one will be nannying you and be like, oh well, bring us this and this and this. So that's why now with this on the basis of working the permanent that I'm applying to, I need to get like external help, because it's impossible. I don't know, maybe if you're like very focused on it and you're very in this, like reading all of the forums, all of the Facebook groups, it's possible, but like
it's a tedious activity in general. With that said, there are, you know, welfare help groups who can, you know, go and help you with answering some of your questions, like Funsia Laszlo Mali. You know, these foundations, you know, help you find some of the answers, and it's free of cost, right? It's just
what was it called?
Funsia dla Somali, and if I'm pronouncing it wrong,
Fundacja dla Somali. For Somalia?
Oh. Yeah, but it's just but it's for everyone, right?
Oh, okay. That's the foundation that's like sponsoring the. Oh, interesting.
Correct. But it's you know, for anyone who does not have enough cash but they want help and they have specific queries, I think these foundations really can help you answer some of your questions and you know, at least help you expedite the process where if you're stuck in, you know, any kind of way, shape or form. But you know, like you said, your friend, the business that they are doing, you know, there are many agencies like that nowadays, you know, where you can sort of pay someone to help expedite that, or you can of course go to an immigration lawyer as well.
I don't even know that they expedite it. I think the only thing, like in my experience, I think what's harder is not so much like the documents and understanding the list of documents. It's the goalpost sometimes just kind of keeps moving.
Yeah.
So they start like asking you for things that are not necessarily on the list of required documents. So I've had a lawyer, I think, since 2015 or 2016. I did it by myself for like the first five years, and then I got a lawyer when it was really helpful because they kept like asking for random things, and I'm like, I just gave that to you, and I didn't. That's not on the list. And even with a lawyer, it's happened where they've asked for things that are like unnecessary or not on the list because they can ask you for whatever.
Oh, and then they're fighting between it. Like for example, like now I have a very funny situation because I have this lawyer of my own that I had before I got the current job, and then my company also have their own lawyers, and now those two ladies are kind of disagreeing all the time on the documents that I need to get, because like the one is asking me for one paper and I go to another one and I'm like, oh, can I get this paper? And she's like, oh, I never filed this. I don't know why they're asking that.
No.
And I'm like, I don't know. I just get a list of things and I bring you a list of things.
And then, that's very confusing. Oh no.
Even the lawyers don't know.
Yeah. It's very confusing.
But Anna, because you've been here for a while now, and I think you do speak Polish. You have completed your, master's and your graduation from, a Polish university in Polish language. Can you not apply for a PR?
For what?
For a permanent residency.
Not yet, because I think that it all comes down to how many years of like stable, well-paid job that you had, and you have to like be able to prove that. And for a while, I wasn't making the
when you were a student and you were just transitioning.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know. I knew that you had to apply for permanent. You have to live 5 years in Poland continuously, and you have to be in Poland for 10 months out of every year.
And you need to speak B1.
B1 level. I didn't know that there was an income threshold, though. That's interesting.
Yes, there is. And for at least 3 years.
Oh, okay.
You need, out of those 5 years, I believe that you need to be at least 3 years of working.
Okay.
Yes, and getting the threshold. That was like your problem was like leaving. Yes, and my problem is like not making.
This. There's a lot of boxes to check before you can get that permanent residence card. Or do you have a permanent residence card?
No, because I don't speak B1 level of Polish.
Are you kidding? Oh, you only do. So between the three of us,
we're still going through that soul-crushing process every 3 years.
Yeah.
All right, so usually this is the place where we talk about our sponsors and the message.
But since we don't have a sponsor for this video, please like and subscribe to this channel to let us know that you're interested.
And if you want to be a guest on this podcast, please reach out to us on our email address below. Would love to have multiple diverse guests on the show. Back to the conversation.
So I just want to go back to the question that I was asking about your bartending days, right? How did you get into this? What were the prerequisites of getting there? And tell us about some, crazy stories that you've encountered.
Yeah, right. So I was working in this British pub, Legends, in Warsaw, and the prerequisites for me was just being able to speak English since it's a British bar. So that was easy because they were not making cocktails and like mixed drinks, so it was only beer. So like getting in was easy, and it was also a special place because it was they built a community and people were coming there just to like meet other people and just to talk to each other. Like the British pub culture that they just all like to stand and like walk around and talk to different people, or just talk to the owners, or like talk to the bartender, and and everybody knew everybody. And then when the new people came in, they kind of like they saw this vibe of everyone knowing each other and just chatting to everybody, and they got involved, and that's how like people also making friends there, and I was also making friends there, and because sometimes people just start talking to you and you're like, why are you talking to me, I'm working, but then they persist on talking to you, and then it's been 5 years and you're friends.
Amazing.
And and then it was easy to pick up men on the company time, so I don't have to do that.
Is that how you met your current partner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's yes. Well, he did everything right, because as I told you earlier, how like the drunk guys, they get the courage when they're drunk, and they only when they can't talk, but then they will start hitting on you. And I was always saying like, oh, can you come tomorrow sober and ask me for my number? Like that would be fine. You're cute, but I can't just do this. When you're in this state, that would be. I
can't agree to this right now.
I can't agree to this right now. I have to have some
some other view of you.
Yeah. But also like some self-esteem. Like I can't just go with such a drunk person, but you're cute. Like come back sober. And what my current partner did, he came sober, and he was like, oh, can I have my bill and your number?
Wow.
Oh, did he really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's adorable.
Yes. And,
And so, gentlemen, if you're looking for how to pick up ladies in Warsaw, and it happens to be the bartender, come back the next day sober.
yeah, because I was very, very open a lot of times, but I just couldn't go with such a drunk person.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are some of the craziest or like interesting things that have happened, being a bartender? Because I mean, that's not a job that like everybody has experience having.
Yes.
Like, do you have any crazy things that happened or stories or?
Well, a lot of crazy things happened there, but I think
Not everything can be said on camera.
And that's fine.
absolutely.
The camera-friendly things.
yeah. So that's why it is difficult for the camera friendly.
Yeah, just filter the nasty stuff out.
I don't know. I think that like there were beautiful moments when some nights where there were not many people, but then there was like a bunch of strangers who came and they all started talking, and there was like a lovely evening, and then everybody was like paying for everyone's drinks, and those moments where strangers came and they just loved it so much, and they made some connections there, and it was always cool to see how people just walk through the door and they're like, oh, this is such a nice place, and then you just meet those strangers, and we just had such lovely time, and that doesn't happen very, very often, because usually like you go with your friends and you stay with your friend group and you don't really interact with strangers in bars. But there, that place it was possible.
This was at Legends.
That was at Legends, yes.
And you worked in the other places.
The other place, yes, but then it was completely different. It was like this people coming with people they know, like zero interaction with the bartender, because it was like a tiny bar, so like no one was just like staying there, because after some time, if you're just sitting at the bar and you just like naturally start talking to like, I don't know if that's a quiet evening to the person behind the bar who's also bored, and you're like, okay, let's just have a conversation. What's up? So yeah.
You've moved several times. So obviously you've moved to Poland, you moved to Belgium. Would you consider moving anywhere else?
I think yes. If opportunity presents itself, I would try. At least I would be happy to go and live somewhere else, because I think that living in a place gives you like more than just like traveling there and just seeing buildings without context, and you don't have like your life, your memories there. You're just there for some couple of days and you don't really know things. So living in a place is valuable by itself, but I don't know if I would like move somewhere forever, but nothing is forever.
True. But with that thought, would you consider moving back to Russia ever?
I always thought that it would be interesting to live in Moscow for some time. Like now, obviously, it's not one place to be. But I understand people who go back because the language barrier. Like you suddenly realize how easy life is in your home country, where you speak the language and you can like do everything. And it's just you realize talking to people is just, in your own language is just so easy, and all of the interactions are so easy. So I understand the appeal, and also like being able to, I don't know, be funny in your own language and be able to like make I don't know, like cultural jokes, like
getting the same pop culture references.
Yes, it's very valuable, and I understand why people choose to be in the country where everybody kind of gets your
humor
and
mindset, language,
and
the nuances too.
Yes.
Do you miss that?
Yes, I think I am lucky that I have several Russian-speaking friends here, and I have my best friend who is Russian, and I'm very grateful for having this friend, and like for being able to just like do Russian things from time to time, and I do miss that in general. I think that it's important.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Russians, what are some of the stereotypes that you have seen people have about Russians or what you come across, which you thought was funny. And, sometimes these stereotypes could be true, could not be true, but, you just want to talk about some of these things since you've been living here so long.
Yes, but I want a disclaimer. I represent a lot of stereotypes. Not every Russian is like that. I drink vodka and I dance with bears, and
I forgot about the bears.
and I don't smile at strangers, and I'm generally like sassy. Then not everyone is like that. I'm just like that.
So you are the embodiment of the stereotypes.
A lot of that, but I don't want to say that everybody is like that. But also some of the it's you're from this cold place. I wanna tell the story that I usually tell about my Belgian experience, because I was freezing in Belgium everywhere because it was cold inside of places everywhere, and I was complaining about it all the time, and people were like, "Oh, you're from Russia. Why are you complaining about the cold?" And I'm like, "Yes, in Russia it's cold outside." It's warm inside. I'm not used to wearing like 3 sweaters, and that's not cool. That is a funny story. I think that is like the stereotypical way of thinking that like you're used to cold. Yes, outside is fine.
But you're saying it was cold inside in Belgium. That's interesting.
Yes.
I wonder what that was
the
about.
energy prices are just yes. I mean, partially because of us also. I'm not gonna,
It's like not to complain.
I don't think that I'm the right person, but still, I mean, I understand it, like the bigger picture, but on the personal level, it was very annoying.
You have to constantly be asked why you're complaining about the cold. One of the things that you mentioned, one of them, you don't smile, for example. I see you smiling this whole chat. So
yeah, because I like you. No, but also if I don't know people in Belgium, again, I think that I'm more talking about differences between I don't know, Russia and Poland and Belgium, because for me that was more striking. Is like people smiling at you, people you don't know, and because I was getting all confused, and I started thinking, oh, do I know this person? It takes me like 5 minutes to like figure out maybe I just moved here. I met a lot of new people. Maybe I got confused and I don't remember someone, and they just smile, and you're like, wait, no. So that was confusing, and I thought it was awkward. But then people explained to me that it's not awkward, that they're doing it in order to make this interaction less awkward, like to acknowledge someone's presence, and they're like, that makes sense.
One of the really funny like culture things that I had my first year here. So like one of the first phrases that you learn in Polish, which actually you should never use in Polish, but for some reason that's the first thing they teach you, is jak się masz, like how are you? Which is
why shouldn't you use it? Like no one says that, but
no one says that. And also,
sometimes.
But you'll say shema or like. So,
I was very confused in my first year with the totam.
Totam, yeah, I was confused by totam too.
Like, what do you expect me to say?
I
didn't real. It took me some time to realize that totam is just like, how are you?
Yeah,
and like you can say dobrze.
And it's like slangy.
But it was confusing to me. I never knew what to say to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, every time I would say that, people would be like, do you actually want to know? And I'm like, and in the US, no.
Yeah.
You're just supposed to say fine, everything's great.
Correct, because in English you just say good and thank you, and
it's like a greeting, not an question.
You move on.
Yeah, because in Poland, you ask someone how are you, they will actually tell you how they really are.
Yes.
You should have some time at your hand and make sure that you're ready to listen.
And also that you're at an appropriate level of intimacy where they don't feel like it's like, why should I tell you everything that's going on in my life,
True.
Yeah, but then it can be a small talk. Like for me, it was, for example, a small talk with some of the people that I studied with that were not my friends, but but we go to those classes, we barely speak, but then you're like in the elevator and they're like, oh, totam. And like this specific situation, it is just a small talk.
And that
we're not supposed to actually
tell them how you really are.
In detail. Yes, it's not expected here, so not every time. So it's very also complex based. But here also, what I if that's a scale, so like Poles are a bit like nicer than Russians, so like they're more polite a little bit. Like I mean, if that's a scale,
It's a spectrum.
it's a spectrum. It's like in the States, like the friendliness is like there. So like in Poland, like it's there, and Russia is there. And
So
and
just at the starting point, Russians.
yeah. Like for example, I don't understand why coming back to the elevator, you say "Dzień dobry" at the elevator. Like I don't understand the necessity of it.
Yeah, you do say "Dzień dobry." You do say "Dzień dobry" when you walk in.
Or like when you walk in a train.
What?
You sit on a train and you're like, when you walk in this, like, I don't know, this compartment. Like,
Yeah.
Yes,
like,
the wagon.
Yeah.
wagon,
There you go.
And then like you go there and you say "Dzień dobry," which is like also nice, but it's
I've
also
never done that.
unnecessary.
Oh, you mean in like the little compartment?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you have to say "Dzień dobry."
Yes.
Because otherwise you just walk in silently.
Yeah. But you're not going to have an interaction with those people.
But you might.
But you're sitting in a little like compartment. She means the ones you.
I know, but there might be other people there, and you
Yes,
know.
it's like it's usually 6 people. You're not going to be like interacting. I mean, now I understand. Like now I understand why, and it's like it's okay. I will also do that, but I don't think that it's necessary. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be necessary, but I think because it's a confined space, it feels awkward to just like, because you're, just sit down and not say anything.
But you don't always say hi to people like they're sitting next to you on an airplane, for example.
True.
And you're
actually-
sitting very like close.
In
Yeah, you're so right.
proximity.
You're so
Yes.
right. I actually avoid speaking to people on airplanes because sometimes they want to keep talking to you.
That's my problem.
Yeah, for sure.
I used to have those like conversations in Russia in the trains as well, and like I didn't. One time I was on the train and I was eating candies, and I gave this guy in front of me a candy, and then he probably thought that it was like an invitation to meet I don't know.
It was a meet cute.
Yeah, it was a meet cute, and I was like, nah, just. I offered you food out of kindness, not out of interest.
Oh my god! So on a more serious note then, what advice would you give someone who's trying to move to Poland? Because like now that's a thing people do on purpose. I don't know if you've heard, so like what advice would you give to anybody trying to move here?
From what I already said, like documents are important. It's not a because that was the problem with my ex-boyfriend who said, "Oh, it's just a formality." No, it's not a formality.
So he was deported.
No, he had to leave. He caught the last plane from Europe to South Africa. So like they had to deal. Yeah, because it was COVID. So
okay. I thought
yes.
were there no other flights after that flight?
yeah, because they were closing everything. So it was a rescue flight.
Okay.
They
those are so fun.
rescue flight.
So what was his? What he thought documents were a formality in what way?
That you don't, because I've been living here for a while. I'm always like obsessed with like the and checking it right
as one should be,
and like and I keep talking about how like I need to gather all
Staying
of the papers.
legal is important, guys.
Oh, and he was just more like willy-nilly.
And he was like, "Oh, it's just a formality. We'll figure it out." And I'm like, "No, that's not a formality. That's something that you need to."
It's a must. Yeah.
Yes, to pay a lot of attention to.
I'm pretty sure that's true everywhere, though. That is wild. Like, I'm pretty sure no matter where you go, the documents are important, as you say.
Yes,
I think that guy was like living, carelessly.
Yes. And like remembering the Polish Catholic calendar is important. I think.
What impact does the Polish Catholic calendar have?
No, you want to know when is Fat Thursday so that you can buy donuts.
I see. Okay.
Of course.
Yes.
Naturally. That's
or like not to be left at home without any food when the shows
that's
are
true. That's such a good point.
That is important.
Yeah. But like the bold food works if you're in that situation. But anyways, I've been there. Yeah. Great. So I'm going to ask a couple of like rapid fire questions just in your experience. We're just obviously this is Why Poland by Expats in Warsaw, and so we have a lot of expats in the community, about 50,000 members strong. And so, in your opinion, what is your favorite place to meet people?
Legends.
Okay, favorite place to hang out, whether it's like a museum or
your living room. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, you are.
Favorite city in Poland?
Warsaw. For touristic purposes, I would say Gdańsk, but for living purposes, it's only Warsaw.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for joining us and sharing your story with us about your experience here in Poland. It was a pleasure to have you. I had a fantastic time.
No, it was truly hilarious. It was one of my favorite episodes to shoot, and Anna, thanks a lot for your time and having and sharing those fun conversations. Really,
Yeah,
I also had fun. I had a great time.
yeah, the energy was awesome.